Hi, welcome to this masterclass. My name is Sara. I am a certified coach. I consider myself to be a spiritual teacher and a spiritual healer. I do have the gift of healing. I've been putting this class together for so long, and I'm so excited to share this with you. This is 30 years in the making, how to manifest. This is a mysterious thing that a lot of people try to understand but don't understand. Manifesting is not complicated. Once you understand the basics about manifesting, it will literally change your life. So I'm looking so forward to doing this class for you. Please make sure you have pen and paper. You will want to take notes. If you have questions, you need to write them down. Email them to me at the end of the class. I can't answer them right now because, of course, I'm doing the class. Yeah, so let's get going. I've got most of you here, so let's go. I'm going to share the screen. I will be doing a PowerPoint so that I remember to tell you everything. And I will take myself off of this so that you're not looking at me. So this masterclass is called Wisdom from the Light, God's Truth About Manifesting. I know that this was a spiritual experience for me, and I am meant to share this. This is my purpose. So let's get going. In this masterclass, you will learn what God wants you to know about manifesting. What is it that is stopping you from manifesting what you want? And literally how to sit back and manifest your desires. There's 3 really important points to this masterclass. And like I said, I'm sharing my story. What you are doing is you are actually manifesting all the time. It is not something you do or you don't do. And it's not a spiritual rite of passage. Like a lot of programs out there make you feel like there's something you have to reach this enlightenment. That's not true. The challenge is that you're manifesting what you don't want more often than what you do want. And this class is going to help you clarify why you're doing that. The question is why. Everything I share in this masterclass is very important for manifesting the life you truly want. You know, some things may not make sense at the moment while I'm sharing them, but they're all cumulative. It's very important that you understand where you're manifesting from and why and what you can do about it. So I share this, it's my story. However, it is very pertinent to manifesting. You know, this wisdom is from God's spirit, higher power, however you choose to look at that. So please be open-minded. You know, my wish is that you have everything you want in your life, everything you desire. So, you know, this is where this masterclass is coming from. So a bit of my story. Over 30 years ago, my perception of my life experience was completely transformed through dying on the operating table. At first, I was faced with this very dark, painful place. And as I started floating closer and closer to it, the pain got more and more. And in this moment, I just asked for forgiveness. I'll explain what that is actually in my book. So I don't want to go into all of that right now, but it's, you know, it's just it was part of the story. And in an instant, I found myself engulfed in this beautiful, loving light that completely accepted me for all I was. I felt so accepted, so peaceful, and I knew I was home. You know, it was just this beautiful feeling of, oh, I'm home. As I headed to the crest of the light, I was reminded telepathically about these things. And it was like, oh yeah, oh, I knew that. And oh yeah, I knew that. And the information that I was getting was giving me peace. And yet I wasn't really clear on what the information was at the time. And when I reached the crest of the light, this hand reached out to me and asked me, are you sure this is what you want? Now, I was asked this question because I cried out to God to die during I actually panicked on the operating table. So it was my choice to, you know, to want to die. And so I was given the choice to whether I wanted to continue through the light or return. And I just remember telepathically saying, nope, I need to go back and do what I was meant to do. And it was just this instant, everything started spinning around. And I remembered coming back in through my head and looking up and realizing that I had actually been put under anesthetic. I share more about that. I have a couple of podcasts that interviews that I've had. And if you're interested in those, let me know at the end of this class. So the days and the weeks to come were completely different. I literally could see all this energy, all this dark energy in my life, and in the important people in my life. I could see all this energy and I couldn't figure out what it was. Before dying, I believed that I was that dark energy. That was my reality. The emotions that I was living in was I believed that that's who I was. In the next instant, I could see all these emotions or all this dark energy in my life, negative, and I was in the audience looking at it. One moment I was the play. The next moment I was in the audience watching the play. And it was really, really freaky. Like, I couldn't believe how much darkness there was. So what I did was I thought, well, I have to get away from this. I need to leave this situation. So I left the relationship. I found another one. I moved. I changed homes. I changed jobs. I bought things for myself that I wanted. I changed towns. And yet I was still living in that dark energy of negative emotions. It was just a different view. And I couldn't figure out what I was missing. It wasn't making sense to me. I knew that during my near-death experience or my death, when I was in the light, that I was in this unconditional acceptance, this complete peace, this absolute knowing that that's who I was. I was this beautiful, peaceful, unconditional being of loving energy. And I knew that. There wasn't any pain, there wasn't any fear, there wasn't any anger, there was nothing negative. It was just this beautiful peace, love, and knowing that I was all that. And over time, I began realizing that everything negative in my life was not the essence of who I was. I was not a negative being. It was something else. And but I didn't know. I felt like I was caught between two worlds. One, I was loving this beautiful, loving energy. And the other, I was living in these negative emotions. And it was very confusing for me. Before my death, it was very natural for me to live in both worlds at the same time because that was all I knew, yet I knew it didn't feel right. And I was always searching for, the answers, the questions. Like, I was always searching for this life didn't feel right, but this was what I knew, and I came to this place where I just cried out to God and said, please show me what I need to know. This was in the late 80s and the early 90s. And, there was no internet, there was no Google search, there was none of that. And what happened was I ended up being prompted to turn the TV on, and there on the TV was, on that channel, was this Nova show. And it was these people sitting around a table talking about their near-death experiences, describing the experiences to terminal cancer patients. And in that moment, I just knew, I knew that that's what had happened to me. And I felt like these people were like my family. It was, one of those, thank you. And I actually threw the VCR in and pushed record. And yes, I still have the VCR with the show on it. And that show made me start thinking. I was the only constant in all the changes that I had done in my life. So there was something I needed to change, and I just didn't know what it was. And I came to this point one morning, I was still manifesting things I didn't want. I was still struggling. I was, to be honest, drinking, and I was in a really, really dark place. And I woke up this one morning, and I sat on the stairs putting my shoes on to go for a power walk to get me out of this negative space. And in the corner was this dime, and I reached over to pick up the dime, and I looked at the dime, and I thought, where did you come from? And the next thing I knew, there was this very confident, strong voice that said to me, Sara, what do you believe to be true that isn't true, that is creating this mess? And it was just this voice that just snapped at me. And it was like, and I looked around the room and I looked at how I was living, and I thought, I've got to figure this out. And that's when I started searching. At that point in my life, there was the internet, there was Google search, there was all this stuff. And I started searching, and I found Dr. Bruce Lipton's work. And one of the verses that he says is, show me the boy at 7 and I'll show you the man. And what Dr. Bruce Lipton teaches is that everything that you experience the first 7 years goes into your subconscious memory. All right? And that becomes your hard drive. That becomes your operating system. So everything you have, memory that you have from your first 7 years goes into your operating system. And this was a light bulb moment for me. It was like, oh, okay, this is different. I need to look at this further. And so what I did was I started thinking about what I was thinking about. Now, write that down. Think about what you're thinking about. Don't just think. And when I started doing that, I started thinking about what I was thinking about. And I also learned at that point that what I thought about was what I manifested. Now, this is a common belief. What I also realized is what I was thinking about was experiences that I had had while I was on the earth. Like, it was these memories and these experiences that were in my thoughts. They were, some of them were good, some of them weren't good, positive or negative, but I realized my thoughts were memories of experiences that I had. And the other thing I began to realize was that there was emotions attached to these events or memories. And the emotions were positive or negative, but there was always an emotion that was attached to what I was thinking about. And then I went a step further and I realized that the emotional energy memory was actually energy. Everything's energy. But these memories had this energy about them. And I could actually feel it. I could see it. I could sense it. And it was, they were either positive memories or negative, but they all had emotional energy attached to them. And this is sort of how I pictured it in my head. I had this picture of, I had an event with an emotional memory, and this whole thing had energy attached to it. So all the things that I had gone through, I thought about my first 7 years. Well, I didn't remember a lot of my first 7 years. I had gone through some trauma. I had, had a pretty hard childhood. And, when I went back to think about my memories from my child, I only had three memories that stood out. And, I just didn't remember a lot of anything. And so I started trying to figure out, with the first 3 memories, I tried to, sort of grab onto those. But what I started realizing was that the energy with the emotional memories were going out into the universe. And that kind of worried me, because I thought, gee, if I can't remember a lot of my childhood, and there's memories in there that have energy attached to them, that was going out into the universe. And what I realized was that the universe was actually matching the energy from the emotional memories. At this time, I started realizing that my father was actually very narcissistic and extremely abusive. And what I was doing was, and I did not see that before I started doing this work. And what was happening was this was going out into the universe, and the universe was matching it. I was attracting abusive narcissists into my life. And to be really honest with you, I couldn't figure out why I was doing that. It just wasn't making sense to me. And when I started doing this work and I started looking at my childhood, that's when I realized that I was actually doing this without even knowing. I was sending energy about, fears I had, abandonment issues, fear of dying, all the fears that I had. Like I would keep manifesting the same fears into my life. The money beliefs that I had. My parents argued about money. I remember the saying, "We only had a dime left over." There was money didn't grow on trees. I was made to feel very guilty about wanting things, and I sent that out to the universe, and the universe kept matching it. Now, let's go back to this for a second. Sorry. This is really, really important, and if you want to take a photograph of this, I'll sit here for a minute, but, this is an extremely important piece of the puzzle. There are things in your subconscious emotional memory that you don't remember that's creating and manifesting in your life. It's the law of attraction. Okay. So the next piece of this was that Dr. Bruce Lipton also believes that you spend most of your day slipping into your subconscious memory. He believes you spend 95 to 97% of your day. If you're not aware of this, you're slipping into your subconscious emotional memories 95 to 97% of the day. Well, I started thinking about that and I started noticing where my thoughts were going. And I caught myself in my negative emotional memories most of my day. And I was shocked. Once I realized that I was doing this, I realized how much I was actually focusing on negative emotional memories, negative feelings. And guess what? These negative emotional feelings were turning into thoughts, and the thoughts were manifesting in my life. I'll say that again. The energy with the emotional memory from the events, I would find this in my thoughts, and what you think about is what you create, and it was manifesting positive and negative memories. This is huge. So what you focus on with energy, with emotional energy, you manifest. Now, this is why they talk about, you want to do dream boards, you want to manifest a beautiful house, you want to do all these things. Well, they always say manifest it as if you're there already with the emotion. That's why, because the emotional energy is what you put out to the universe, and the universe is going to match it. It's going to manifest it. So I tried, like all of the programs that I studied and all the programs that I have, looked at and all of that, they all said to manage, control, lean into, or ignore the negative emotional energy. So I tried to do that. I did it for about 4 or 5 months, and yet the negative was still manifesting in my life. So, I came to a place where I realized that wasn't working, and I needed to understand why. What I realized was I was trying to manifest a new way of living in my conscious brain. Now, the conscious brain is something that develops after 7. Okay. The conscious brain is something that develops after the age of 7. And I was trying to manage and control and ignore and push down all of these negative emotional memories from my subconscious, when it was the actual subconscious memories that was controlling all of it. I couldn't manage it. It was coming from my subconscious. And let's face it, it was energy, and energy is going to find a way out. It's like water, the path of least resistance. Energy will find a way to show up. Now, this will help you feel better, this next slide. It is humanly impossible to stay in your conscious brain, managing and controlling your negative emotions 24/7. You can't do it because if you're going to do this, you have to literally sit in a chair and do nothing but manage and control that energy if you think you can. If you go to sleep, it's going to show up in your dreams. If you concentrate on something else or you start doing something else, it'll start showing up in your thoughts. You cannot consciously manage or control your negative emotional energy. It's impossible. And another thing is, you can't manifest positive things into your life when you have negative emotions around what you're trying to manifest. So let's put this in a terms that you can understand. If you're trying to manifest money into your life and you have negative subconscious emotional memories about money, you will not bring it into your life. Or if you do, you will lose it because you have a negative feeling about it. You don't want negative things in your life. You will keep it's like an oxymoron. It'll keep cycling. So you cannot manifest positive things into your life when you have negative emotions about them, about what you're trying to manifest. Now, that includes, doing things like affirmations, meditation, mindful thinking. Now, I'm not saying that these are bad. These are good. These are good things to do. But you cannot manifest good things that you want in your life just by doing all of these, because a lot of this is your conscious brain, including meditation. That's what the alpha waves are. So, these are good, but this is not the answer. Now, I came to this place where I realized that the only way that I was going to start manifesting what I wanted was that I had to get rid of these negative emotional memories with the energy. I had to figure out how to deal with this, So I couldn't stay here. This was not how I was going to live, and it's not the way you should be living either. But what was really cool though is I started realizing that everything negative in my life that wasn't working was a gift for me to understand what was going on in my subconscious. Now, I really, this is funny. I sat back and I looked at everything in my life and I realized that I had recreated my school. I had recreated this little pocket of my family. I had recreated all of these things in my actual life that weren't working. Because it was sitting in my subconscious emotional memory. It was this moment. It was like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. So, so, so this is what I want you to do: is I want you to sort of step back and look at everything that's going on in your life that's not working, and start thinking about where it's actually coming from. Now, remember, and this is important, there are no negative emotions. There was no negative emotions when I was in the light, and there isn't any in you either. You are a pure, beautiful, loving, you are pure, beautiful, unconditional loving energy. That's who you are, right? That is who you are too. You're not the emotion. So I made it my quest. I had to figure this out because I was not living that way, and that was the end of it. And I had done therapy. I had done years of conventional therapy, and it did not work for me. And I wanted power over my own healing. I didn't want to wait 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, to go in and talk to somebody about things that just wasn't changing. And so I started studying everything I could get my hands on, spiritual teachings, brain functions, everything. And I studied EMDR, I studied TFT, I studied tapping, I studied all of these techniques to try and figure out, and I tried them all on me to try and figure out, what was going to work. And that's when I was guided to create. Some of the techniques worked a bit, and some of them worked very well, and some of them didn't work at all. But what I did was I tried doing all these different combinations, and I came up with this technique that actually released the energy around the memory. And it was working. I was thrilled. So I would recognize when I was in negative subconscious emotional memory. I began to recognize, of course, everything negative in my life was from there. and started doing this technique that I created to release the energy. Now, the really cool thing about this technique that I created was that I didn't have to know what it was. I didn't need to know what I was feeling. What would happen is this negative emotional feeling would come into my life, whether it showed up in my dreams or wherever it came from. And I would just tap into that feeling, and I would do the technique and go into the subconscious, and I would actually have this memory of where it came from. I mean, one of the ones that I remembered was that I was about 4 years old, and I was sitting on the couch, and my mother was very, very angry. She was angry at my dad because he was late again. She had dinner ready, and she was really mad. And it was always like, your father this, your father that. And I remembered sitting on the couch, staring out the window, and just feeling this absolute abandonment, and terrified that my dad wasn't going to show up. And then as soon as the car pulled in, and he came in the door, he couldn't get to the door fast enough. I ran up to him and just jumped into his arms. But I kept that feeling of rejection or abandonment, and it was sitting in my subconscious. And so when I removed it, I removed that emotion that was attached to that memory. But there was always still something, even though I was doing this technique, there was still something missing. And, I was actually working with people at this time. I started working with people, I started coaching them, and I was at this point where I was starting to question what I was doing, because I still felt like I wasn't quite giving my clients the whole package. And I remember it came to this evening, it was like 10 o'clock at night. And I was just in this space, just going, should I continue this, or do I need to get a regular job? Like, honestly, this is where my head was at. And then I went to sleep. And the next morning, then no word of a lie, the next morning I went into YouTube, and there was Dr. Gabor Mate, who I'd never heard of before. And I lived in Vancouver, which was really weird, but I never heard about this guy before. And he was talking about core beliefs, of where those core beliefs came from. And I knew that I was meant to watch this. So I watched this incredible over an hour interview from Joe Polish was interviewing Dr. Gabor Mate. And everything he said, Dr. Mate said, was validating my near-death experience, but it was also validating what had changed for me, that, I was this beautiful being having this earthly experience. And then he went further to explain, where his core belief came from. He was born when the Nazis took over his country, and his mother was in this horrible state. And at that point, he believed that he wasn't wanted, and created a whole life around the feeling of not being wanted. And negative events that we experience as a child becomes our core beliefs. And I knew that when I was born, I believed my parents wanted a boy. Both of them wanted a boy. And I was a disappointment, and I was not wanted. And I kept manifesting that belief in my life over and over and over again, disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And, one of the things I want to ask you is, what is your core belief? Do you know what it is? And you can look at what you're manifesting, and you might have an idea. So what I did was I listened to the whole talk. He talked about neuroplasticity. He talked about epigenetics, genes that turn on and off. And he talked about multi-generational family dynamics, like basically sins from the father. That's how I describe it. But, taking on the dynamics of generations before you that haven't dealt with their emotional struggles. The most important one for me, though, was this neuroplasticity. He's basically saying that you could actually change the way that your brain was wired. And that's when I started looking into the study of neuro-linguistic programming. And one of the programs that they do, one of the modalities, was how to change my beliefs. And so what I did was I actually put that into my technique. I added it to the technique. And when I did that, that completely changed how I was manifesting. It totally changed my releasing, my walk, everything. It was like it was one of the most powerful things that I did. So anytime a negative emotion would come up, I would go in, I would release it. And if I had created a limited belief around it, now there's all different limited beliefs about money, all different things. And then, there's times when you don't create a limited belief about an event either. Like it's just something you'll learn how to do, and when you need to do it. And what happened was everything started changing in my life, and I started manifesting things I wanted. And it was very quick. Like this was within like weeks of adding that NLP. And when I when I first realized that this was working, I was actually visiting Vancouver, and I was in a taxi, and it was rush hour traffic. And I kept watching the meter adding up. And it was like we just kept we hit red light after red light after red light. And I came to this point where it's like I was getting really frustrated. But instead of getting angry, I sat back and I said to the universe, I said, we were about 25 cars behind the red light. And I said, in my head, I said, use this light to reposition where the car is, whether we have to sit at this light again one more time, reposition where the car was so that every light after that was green. And I just sat back and I just trusted that that was going to happen. And bam, we hit every green light after another, all the way to my destination. It was so cool. The other thing I also realized was that as I was releasing my beliefs and my negativity, I wasn't manifesting disease in my body anymore. I had manifested eczema, I had manifested Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and as I started working this program, I no longer had those diseases in my life. I believe they're autoimmune illnesses. They were gone. The other things that happened as I was releasing all this stuff was that I was more focused, I had more clarity, I had crazy serendipities happening. Um, I felt lighter, I felt younger, I was getting compliments from people wanting to know what I was doing. I had more hours in the day. Now, this is because I wasn't defaulting. I wasn't slipping into my subconscious memories anymore. So I was in the present. I was there. My conversations were deeper. I had better connections with people, and my memory got better because I was present. I was paying attention. The other thing that happened was the more negative energy that I released, the more I was living in my conscious brain or in the audience. Um, I was spending more time, being in my life, so to speak. Now, the conscious brain that develops after the age of 7 is the power of now. So, you know, I found this very, very interesting. And I discovered this after I had already realized that my conscious brain, when I was in the audience, was the present. I found this afterwards, and I thought, boy, does that validate what I know to be true. The other thing I realized was that when I was in the audience, I was in the present moment. I was paying attention to everything that's going on. I was in the present moment. I was mindful thinking. I was there. I also realized that when I was in the light, that I was in the present moment. And that the light and the audience, or conscious brain, however you want to look at it, was where my spirit manifested. This is where I manifested from. And I believe that this is what people refer to as heaven on earth. When I was in the audience or in my conscious brain, I was in the light and I was on earth and considered that to be heaven on earth. It's a very beautiful, a very peaceful place to be. And I'm here to tell you that you have the ability to live here too. This is not just because of me having a near-death experience. This is something for everybody to experience. And this is where you manifest from trust, knowing and trust. You honestly just you get to this place where you just know that you know that you know and that you trust, and you start manifesting the life you want. And the bonus with being in that place, in that space, was I knew I was living my purpose. I knew that I was finally giving people everything that they needed to manifest the life that they wanted, and also giving them the knowledge that they needed to do that, to live their purpose, to live their life. And I live in that place. I was, and I still do. I live in that place with joy, peace, and freedom. And the most amazing thing that happens was that when I invested in my healing and my releasing, I picked this picture on purpose. When I invested in me, it literally rippled out to all these other people in my life. Now, some of them didn't like the changes in me and chose not to, hang out with me anymore. That was their choice. But a lot of them said, okay, what are you doing? Because I want to know too. You just look fabulous, and I can tell you've done something. It was the ripple effect. The more energy I released, the more I helped other people heal. And I truly believe that this is our purpose. We are all on earth to help each other heal. Whoops, I need to take a space out of that. Sorry, thank you. So I really, really, really hope that this masterclass resonates with you. I hope it has helped you. If you have questions, please email me at presentlivingacademy@gmail.com. I will be more than happy to answer you back. If you want to know more about what I do and you want to see more videos, Present Living Academy on Facebook. I have that available for you. And if you want a copy of my book, 31 Times from Heaven, The Secrets I Learned from My Near-Death Experience, I'd be more than happy to share that with you as well. Just email me at presentlivingacademy@gmail.com, and I'd be more than happy to share that book with you for free, of course. Now, if you want to know more about this releasing technique that I do, and you're ready to start manifesting, if that's your next level that you want to go, please reach out to me. You can join my advanced masterclass. It's 8 weeks of manifesting mastery, manifesting mastery. What I do is I do a one-on-one breakthrough call with you. We work through your core beliefs. We release what you believe. We release your core beliefs, the negative ones. And then we have 8 weeks of a weekly lesson at the beginning of the week. And then we have a mastermind discussion. I take on only 5 clients at a time so that we have a very small, intimate group so that we can all connect and really help each other heal. I teach you the techniques that I created, and I make sure that you know how to do them. And I teach them at the beginning of the 8 weeks because it's something I want to keep working on and making sure you do understand how to do them. I teach you how to understand your dreams. We talk about forgiveness and so many other things. And then after the 8 weeks, I do an ongoing mastermind where we can all get together monthly and share about our wins. And if you're having challenges, you can just continue making sure that you're being successful. This is the most rewarding class that you will ever do. Like I said, there's very limited seating. I'm starting a new class in about 2 weeks, and I only take 5 clients on a time. And if this is something that you're really interested in, then I super encourage you to, book a call with me, click the link, book a call, and we'll do a Zoom video chat. If you just want to just chat with me and get some clarity about some things, please do that as well. There's no obligation to this class. It's something that I know that if you're ready, you will know and you will want to do it. I don't charge thousands and thousands of dollars for this class. I know I should. I've been told that I should, but I just want to make sure, the more people I can help heal, the better. So if you want to know more about it, please click the link. If you want a copy of my book, please presentlivingacademy@gmail.com. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. Like I said, if you know that this is something you're meant to do, then click the link and let's connect. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has helped you. And if you have any questions, please email me at presentlivingacademy@gmail.com. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you. Take care.